Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Gary. How are you?
I am alive, which is,
You are alive. Thank God.
yeah.
Baruch Hashem. You feeling good?
How are you? You look sunburned. You have good
I
color.
guess I've been hiking a lot, more than usual.
Zoom works.
Good.
You don't have to show them.
Well, you could take yourself out.
Hello, hello. Hi, Judy.
Hi, Rabbi Biston. How are you, Dovie?
Good, thank God. Doing well.
You look like you lost a little more hair up there.
Thank you, thank you. They say grass doesn't grow on a busy street. So, how are you doing? How is Harold?
Well, we're okay. We moved like 2 days before the shutdown. We moved to a condo.
Wow.
So it's been kind of crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Are we the only ones here with you?
No, so do you see everyone? I'm curious.
No, I can do that. Yeah, I got it. Okay. I can see almost everyone. Not everyone. Is Joan there? No.
Hi, Sandy. Alicia? Oh, no, I got it. Hello, Margaret. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Great. And Andrew. Hello, Andrew. And Danny. Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here.
Rabbi Dovie, thank you. Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Shabbat shalom. Well, shalom, not Shabbat shalom.
Hello.
Yes.
Doing well.
That's
Thank
great.
God. Hey, Sandy. How are you? Welcome. So thank you all for being here and joining this class. This class is based off of a book. It's actually called Positivity Bias. And it's a great book. I encourage everyone you could purchase the book. And it's based off of stories of the Rabbi. And the Rabbi was known to really look at the world with a paradigm shift. The things that most people would look at as a negative, the Rabbi would somehow see the positive in it. And one of the famous stories, really, I don't know if it's brought in this course. I don't think it's brought, but it's the story of when the Rebbe was talking to some important people from Israel, and he encouraged them that they should change the name of the hospitals in Hebrew, because hospital in Hebrew is referred to as Bet Cholim, the house of the sick. And the Rabbi felt that it's an inappropriate name. Why should you call the hospital the house of the sick? You should call it the house of healing, Beit Refuah, the house of healing, right? Even the smallest thing in a name and the psychology behind it has an effect on us. And the Rabbi really encouraged in everything and always to see the positive. Just to start with something personal that I was involved with yesterday. Yesterday, it was actually 2 nights ago, I got a phone call from Miss Askim. It's an organization in New York which deals with crises across the country and really around the world. And get involved, especially when there's been a tragedy. And I got a phone call about 11:30 at night. I kept getting the call again and again, so I realized I should pick up. And it was the head of the Miss Askim organization. His name is Yankee Meyer from Brooklyn, New York. And he said that there was an accident outside of Flagstaff on the 89A. There were 3 yeshiva students that were driving. They were on their way to Utah. And they helped someone at the side of the road to change their tire. There was a couple who was at the side of the road fixing their tire. This is between Flagstaff and Cameron. And a drunk driver hit them and basically hit the car and killed one of the yeshiva students. And it was just a really, very, very tragic situation, and the family had to be notified, and they needed me to go there right away to be there with the other yeshiva students who were there because they were in the state of shock. And then there was also, according to Jewish tradition, there's a special way how we honor the dead. And so the body had to be protected, and then there was a special team that flew out all the way from California, and they took an immediate flight out to Flagstaff, three members from this organization, and they went to the scene, and they were able to do what they had to do over there, because in Jewish tradition we make sure that everything is buried, and then and throughout the whole next day everyone was working with the yeshiva students and the families and organizing for the body to be transported back, because within Jewish tradition we try to make sure that burial is within 24 hours. Now, in most communities that's not easy, but in New York and in bigger Jewish communities, LA, even Phoenix, in bigger Jewish communities that are aware of this, they can make it happen. So they were able to get the body back, and the yeshiva students were transported on a private plane last night, and they got back about 11:45 back in New York yesterday, and they had the funeral. But I mean, it's, life throws us unexpected curves, and I mean, it was very sad to see, for the family who lost their son, and these yeshiva students, obviously for them, the trauma that they went through. And it's in so many ways, we're all dealing with so many challenges in our life, and then we see, we're suddenly thrown into something like this, and you realize that, to be grateful for every moment. Even the yeshiva students were so grateful; they were so close to being killed themselves, and they were just grateful to be alive. And I think, when we hear stories like this and we experience it, it's, on one hand, it's very saddening, but at the same time, it gives us an appreciation for life. And it's, if we're healthy, especially, and we're doing well, and our families are doing well, just to be grateful for every moment. But this class actually, and this course is really, it's based off of stories. And each class, we're going to share a few stories. And we're going to talk about those stories, and we're going to talk about how we could bring some more positivity into our own lives. And today's class is about how do we deal with unexpected situations, right? When we planned on, moving into our new house, and suddenly, COVID-19 hits. We had a bar mitzvah planned for our son Avremi, and the plans totally changed. We were expecting, a wonderful summer or spring, and all of this, and how do we deal with this? And in addition to that, the fact of not knowing how long it's going to go on for. Like, how do you stay present when is this going to be another week? Is it going to be another month? Are we going to be dealing with this for another year? Is life never going to get back to normal? All those questions that we have. And so I want to start. I think it's important if we could just go around for a moment, if we could just introduce ourselves, those who are here, and just say hello. Because an important part of these Zoom meetings, I believe, is the connection. We're far from each other, and we don't get to see each other personally. But if we could just connect in that way, would be great. And answer that question, meaning, how do you personally deal with when a curveball comes your way, and it's very different than you expected? How do you deal with that? What do you tell yourself? What do you focus on? Just to share that perspective, and then we'll go into the stories and lessons. So who wants to go first? Gary, would you like to start?
Well, I'm a positive thinker, so nothing gets eaten as hot as it's cooked. So you let it calm down and deal with it that way.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Gary. Thanks for always being so positive.
I'm usually positive, but this has been a little stressful since we moved right before everything closed down. So just not feeling nested has been a little bit hard, but I feel grateful that we have each other, my husband and I, and we're we've got food to eat and we're better off than many. So trying to express gratitude for that.
Beautiful. And I just want to say that the reason for this course and why it's so important is actually because people's anxieties are, I could even say, through the roof. It's a real thing. People are really dealing with anxiety. It's a real thing. There is a lot of stress related to the situation that we're in, and everyone copes with it in a different way. So it's good to be here and to talk and to share and hopefully gain perspective from the class and from each other as well. So thank you. Margaret, you want to share?
Yes, I appreciate what the other people said. But one thing is the Jewish year, the Jewish week, the Jewish month, the Jewish week, the day is so stable and ongoing. That's one place where I found really good stability and, like, the question, what do I do now? Or, well, I know what you do. You do this, what you did yesterday or whatever. And count the Omer, and read that meditation. And anyway, I bet the meditations weren't even intended to be for now, but they really are something.
Yeah. No, so what you're saying is the Jewish calendar is so rich that there's always something that, the Torah portion of the week that you find meaning in it. Now we're counting the Omer, and there's some beautiful meditations regarding that. And the day of the week, there's always something special about the time that we're in. That's beautiful. Thank you. Danny?
Yes, hi. My name's Danny. I live in Flagstaff. I always enjoy hearing Rabbi Dovie's messages, the JLI courses. So this whole experience, it's just something that's beyond our control. So I think all we can do is just focus on what we can control and not on what we can't. And just try to see a silver lining if we can, like a time to be a retreat, to do things we've always wanted to do or work on ourselves spiritually, physically, mentally, whatever that is. I think we can just try to make lemonade out of the lemons we've been given. But it's easy to say stuff like that. It's not easy to do that in practice.
Yeah. Thank you, Danny.
You're welcome.
Sandy?
Hi, I'm Sandy. So, and Eric is listening in too.
Hi, Eric.
We've really tried to take things one day at a time. There's not a lot of planning to be doing, and so we're really trying to take it one day at a time. And I know, like, for someone was saying that the Jewish calendar really kind of helps you keep it together. For Passover, it was very different. We usually celebrate with Chabad, but we did things on Zoom. And Rabbi Dovie, what you said about the first Passover, the Jews in Egypt stayed indoors. It really made me feel more connected, almost historically, that I was having Passover was very different, but it was still very meaningful. So just trying to take the little things each day and just one day at a time.
Beautiful. Thanks, Sandy. Oh, I just realized there are people waiting to get in. Whoops. Okay. Hello, Kelly. Welcome. Hi, Sandra. Hello, Rabbi Shmulek. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey. How is it over there?
Hey, Danny.
Hey, Rabbi
Hey,
Shmuel.
everyone. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Gary.
Hello.
Hi, Andrew. Sandra. So great to see everyone.
I'm sorry if it took me a little while over there. I just noticed that there were some people waiting to get in. So if you were waiting for a little while, I'm sorry. I'll be more careful to check on the people joining. So we were just going around and everyone was just sharing. It's been a challenging time in many different ways, many different aspects of it. Today we're going to be talking about how do we deal with curveballs that come towards us when our plans are, we plan one thing and now, things are totally different. And then also just not knowing how long this is going to go on for. and we're going to be sharing some stories of the Rebbe that talk about this, helping us have a paradigm shift in regards to being in the moment. So and we were going around and everyone was just sharing for a moment, how they're feeling about the situation, how they are dealing with the stress of this pandemic. So Sandra Lee, would you like to go? Hey, Sandra.
Okay. Welcome from Flagstaff.
Welcome.
Hello, world. It's crazy. Like, everything's crazy. The thing that is frightening to me, actually, is realizing that we just haven't evolved that much as human beings. And we're so close to the same group that started with just right after the floods. It's like just watching the weird things people are doing. And there's groups and groups of them. So that's how I'm feeling.
Thanks, Sandra.
You're welcome.
Kelly, are you there? Do you hear us? Okay, Kelly, we'll come back. Andrew, are you there? Andrew, do you hear us? Would you like to share? Okay. And how about Rabbi Shmulek?
Yes. What was the question of the positives during this time?
No, it's not really the positives, but how are you? Yeah, how are you focusing on the? How are you dealing with the stress of the situation?
So to be honest, it's definitely been like challenging, especially with the kids home the whole day, and we're still in Brazil. For those that don't know, so we came here for Passover. We're going to come back after, but we are still here right now with everything that's going on. We do have extra help at home, so that's really good. But really being able to connect more and work on myself more during this time has been very helpful. And in addition, we've been trying to do some things over here also. There's a Chabad here in Brazil, and Yael is helping out, her family with doing some stuff over here in Portuguese, giving some classes. And I've been working on something myself which hopefully I could share with everyone soon. I've been recording different songs, parts of the prayers, and I hope to have it translated and put music to it as well. And hopefully I'll be able to share that with the community sometime soon. So that's how we've been busy the whole day with the kids, though. Any free time that I have is put toward that. But it's pretty much been all that. And thank God we can't complain because everyone is healthy.
Wow, beautiful. Rabbi Shmulek, is it being recorded, video recorded in the synagogue?
Yes. Video recorded in front of the Ark. And I've started with different prayers on Shabbat, and I'm working on the weekday prayers now as well. And I'm working with somebody who's trying to put music to the songs that I'm singing. I'm not sure if that part of it will work out. We'll see. If it does, that would be amazing. But hopefully I could get somebody who could put all the Hebrew words with the English translation. And we plan on doing it here in Brazil as well, so in Portuguese as well. And that way we could share it with the community here, and I could share it with many people, hopefully. And then it could help people with learning prayers and things like that. So I'll keep you posted.
That's amazing. Actually, when things open up again and anyone has the opportunity, if you haven't been to Sao Paulo, Brazil, it's really beautiful. And they actually have some magnificent synagogues. On the outside, you wouldn't know how beautiful they are because they keep it very simple. But once you go inside, just the most beautiful buildings. And Yael's family has a beautiful synagogue. The Chabad Center there is magnificent. It's called the Bayit, the house. And yeah, so hopefully this video comes out and it'll be very exciting to see and to hear Rabbi Shmulek. So thank you. We have anyone else who has not had the opportunity would like to speak up. Paula, you just joined. If you'd like to share, you could introduce yourself. We're just sharing, how are you dealing with these stressful times? If you have a moment and you could share with us, that would be great. If not, we could come back.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think things have been going pretty well so far. I've been laid off of work for about a month. My spouse just lost their main job, but we have unemployment and they still have another source of income. So we're just kind of plugging along and using the time to spend more time as a family. We've had more time to focus on some mitzvot, which has been actually really cool. My spouse has never really been very excited about the mitzvot, and so they've finally maybe they don't have much of a choice being stuck in the house with me, but they've been participating in a lot of those things, which has been really fun to do together.
Beautiful. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that, and hopefully there's God willing, I'm sure there will be better times ahead very soon. It's great that you could find something positive to focus on.
Certainly, yeah. I certainly hope there are better times ahead very soon.
Yes, there is. God willing. Amen. So I just want to, we'll start with this story. I mentioned earlier that this course is based off of the book Positivity Bias, and it's really the way that the Rebbe always saw things. And sometimes people didn't even expect it. They thought for sure the Rebbe's not going to have something positive to say over here. But then the Rebbe would just, share a whole different perspective on it. Another amazing book, by the way, just a side note, if you have the opportunity during these times, there's the book called Rabbi, R-E-B-B-E, by Joseph Telushkin. An amazing book, very easy read. He's an amazing author, Joseph Telushkin, one of the most famous Jewish authors today. And he wrote this book on the Rebbe that anyone that I know that has ever read it has told me that it just totally uplifted them. They just love reading it. They can read it at night, during the day. It always puts them in a positive mood. So think about that book. It's called Rebbe by Joseph Telushkin. So the first story that I'm going to share is a story of Miriam Swerdlov. She was with a group of women, 20 women that went to Detroit for a women's conference, a Chabad women's conference. And every year they would have the women's conference in different states. And women from all over would come together, Chabad women would come together and have this wonderful conference. At the end of the conference, they were traveling back, all the women, and they were in the airport, and they find out that their flight has been canceled due to a snowstorm. And they're all there, and this is many years ago. I think this was in maybe 67 or something like that. And they didn't know what to do. They didn't know if there's going to be another flight. It was very complicated. There were 20 women. So one of the women, her name is Mrs. Popak, she was like the group leader. She decided she's going to contact the Rebbe's office and ask for a blessing and advice what they should do in this situation. So they called the Rebbe's office and she tells the Rebbe's secretary, it was late at night, but the Rebbe's, especially in those days, you were able to get through to the Rebbe's office at any time. And they said that, we're stuck here in Detroit. We didn't expect this. We don't know how long we're going to be here, asking for a blessing and for some advice. And so the Rebbe's secretary says, hold on one moment, and comes back and says, the Rebbe doesn't know what you mean to say that you're stuck in Detroit. So she didn't understand what the Rebbe was saying, but she figured the Rebbe doesn't know what it means. Maybe he didn't understand the lingo of being stuck, or maybe he didn't know how it works with, planes and being canceled. So she starts to explain, this is how it works, and the flight got canceled. So the secretary stopped her in the middle and said, no, don't worry. The Rebbe knows what it means to be stuck somewhere, but the Rebbe doesn't know what the word stuck has to do with anything, because a Jew is never stuck. And I don't know what that means. The very fact that you're in the airport means that you have something to accomplish in the airport over there. So all these women that, she went back and told, what the Rebbe said, that there's no such thing as being stuck. You're not stuck in the airport. And they decided that they're going to go around the airport and they're going to see if they can find other Jewish women and encourage them to light Shabbos candles the next Friday night at their home to speak about, lighting Shabbos candles and how important it is and how it brings peace to the world. And that night they met so many women that they connected with and that started lighting Shabbat candles in their homes because of what happened. And Mrs. Miriam Swirlov, who's a speaker, she speaks all over the world. She always shares this story because it's such an important message about, getting stuck. We feel like, we all say this, I got stuck somewhere, or, sort of like there's no rhyme, there's no reason. We just, got the struck of lightning and, the bad luck of the die, and I have to suffer the consequences. But the Rebbe reminded them that night was that there's no such a thing. They weren't stuck over there. This happened for a reason. They have a purpose over there. And therefore, they used that opportunity. And at the end, many great things came out of it. And she shares that till that day, she was connected to women that she met in the airport that light Shabbat candles till today because of that interaction that she had. And if not for the Rebbe reframing it, they just would have been stuck over there and they would have just been, upset about the situation and just focus on how to deal with it. And here, the Rebbe helped them realize, not just for them, but in general in life, that stuck means that we don't believe that there's purpose in everything. So imagine you missed the train, or you missed the bus, or you had an appointment and then you totally forgot about it and it got and because of that you have to now reschedule. It's so easy to get into that place of being stuck. That why did that happen, and why me, and this happens all the time. Now I have to deal with it. The other way is to realize that there's purpose, there's a meaning, there's the very fact that I'm in this situation, the very fact that this happened. How can I bring meaning to this situation? But the big challenge that I would say, and especially in this situation that we're all in, is, okay, so I could bring purpose, right? I could bring meaning to what I'm doing, but for how long? I don't know if this is going to be, I don't know if I'm going to be stuck in the airport for an hour. I don't know if it's going to be a day. That's really when the panic comes in. Whereas, like, how long is this going to go on for? And especially now, nobody really knows. Everyone's asking each other. Everyone's looking at the news. When are things going to open back up? And we don't know. We don't know to what extent. We may have, in December, some are saying that we may have, different strains of it again, and this is going to be around for another year. But so how do we deal with that stress? And I'm curious if anyone has just something to share about that before I share. There's a beautiful story that I want to share. But how do you deal with the unknowing of how long something is going to go on for? How do you bring yourself to be in the present? Anyone have something they want to share? So, okay, so I'll share this story. It's a really beautiful story. It's a story of Avram Glick. Avram Glick was from Melbourne, Australia. He married a woman from Worcester, and after they got married, he had a position that opened up in where his wife was living, and they ended up moving there. It was a teaching position. They were there for a few years, and then he got a job opportunity back in Melbourne to teach in I believe a school over there, or to be a principal. So he wrote a letter to the Rebbe and asked the Rebbe for a blessing that he should, if the Rebbe would give him a blessing and think that it's a good idea for him to move back to Melbourne and to teach over there. So, but as a side note, just about this whole idea of getting, advice from the Rebbe, it's really fascinating. People from all walks of life would come to the Rebbe and ask the Rebbe's advice. It wasn't just, I don't want to make a decision, so let the Rebbe make a decision for me. But we all know how difficult it is to make decisions, and it can be really challenging. There's so many factors to it, and what I think is really good for me, maybe ultimately it's not. And people who went to the Rebbe and asked for the Rebbe's advice really found that the Rebbe somehow knew what was best for them in every situation, whether it was a medical question or a business related question or moving. I could share personally, my mother, she moved together with my father to Miami to teach in the Jewish day school over there. It was called Landau Yeshiva. It was founded by the first Chabad representative in the state of Florida. Today, there's close to 200 shluchim, emissaries of the Rebbe in Florida, and institutions, but that back then there was one. And my parents went to teach in that school, which was in Miami Beach. It's still there today. It started off with a handful of kids. Today they have an enrollment of over 1,000 students in the school in Miami, Landau Yeshiva. So my mother was teaching there, and my father was teaching there. And then the school went through a lot of financial challenges at the beginning. And at some point, all the teachers ended up leaving the school. My father ended up teaching in another Jewish day school in Miami called Hebrew Academy for 30 years. And my mother realized that she didn't want to continue like this. She wanted a real job. Meaning for her, something that's going to help really pay the bills, and that's that she wanted a career. But she didn't know, is this the right thing, or should she continue in what she was doing? At some point, she was also in the administration of the school. So she wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and she wrote all of her different options, what she want, what she should do. And one of the things that she really wanted to do was to become a nurse. So she included one of the options of becoming a nurse. And the Rebbe wrote back a beautiful letter, and the Rebbe circled that she should become a nurse. And the Rebbe gave her a blessing that she should become a nurse. And there was a big deal for my mother that even the Rebbe acknowledged that this is going to be good for her, and that the Rebbe gave her his blessing. And she became a nurse, and later the head of the wound care center, the manager of the wound care center in Miami at Mount Sinai Hospital. And it was an amazing career. She was, she's retired now, but she looks back and she was just really grateful that the Rebbe, gave her that blessing and encouragement that she should go ahead and do it. So people would write to the Rebbe, about all kinds of questions. So his question was, should he move back to his hometown, Melbourne? He had this great job opportunity, but he was currently teaching in Worcester, where his wife was from. So the Rebbe wrote back a blessing that they should move, that it's a good idea, that he should go back to Melbourne and teach over there. So at some point, while he was in between stages, I don't know if you've ever experienced in your life, sort of when you're not here and you're not there, a little bit like what we're dealing with right now. And he was still teaching in Worcester, but his heart was in Melbourne, because he was halfway out the door, and it was very hard for him to be present and into what he was doing over there, because he felt he wasn't really investing. You like to invest in something that, it's like the difference between renting and buying. When you buy something, you feel like you're giving the money towards, that you're going to own it someday. But here, he felt like he was just, kind of doing the motions, but he was totally uninterested in being present where he was in Worcester. And he was already, in his mind, he was already in Melbourne. So he wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe, what do I do? I don't know what to do. He was feeling guilty about it, and he just wanted some advice from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe responded, and he shared with him like this. He said, I just want you to know that this is not the first time that we've had dilemmas like this. And he said that going back to the time of the temple, when the Mishkan, which was the tabernacle that the Jewish people had in the desert, over 40 years, the temple was moving. It didn't stay in one place. It was going from one place to the next. We camped in 49 different places, and every place 42 different camps. Every place that we went, the Kohanim and the Levim would erect the tabernacle and then take it down again when they would travel, every single time. So the Rebbe said, what do you think would happen if they got to a place and they had no idea how long they would be there? Because sometimes they would stop in one place for a month, sometimes for years, and sometimes they would camp overnight, and then they would continue the next day. And they would never know, because it was based off of the clouds of glory when they would move. And it was a sign from Hashem when they were supposed to move. So what would they do when they had no idea when they're going to move? So the Rebbe said that it's brought in the Talmud that even if they were in a place for one day, they would erect the Mishkan. And erecting the Mishkan wasn't like, a pop-up tent going camping. It was a pretty big structure, and there was many pieces involved in it. And they would erect the whole thing. And even if sometimes they would just erect it for a day and then they would travel again. The Rebbe said that from this we learn a tremendous lesson. And the lesson is that even if you're in a place for one day, 1 minute, 1 hour, and you don't know how long you're going to be there, again, you have a choice to say, you know what, I'm just a transient, this is not really my place. How many times did you ever have you ever given cookies or something to your neighbors? If you had new neighbors come onto your block, move next door or on your block, have you reached out to them and connected with them? So my question is, have you ever done that for someone in a hotel? Have you ever gotten into your hotel room and you knock on the neighbor next door, the person staying next door, and say, hey, just want to, welcome you as my fellow guest in the hotel. I want to make sure we're on good terms. Here's some fresh baked cookies. Of course we don't do that. Why? We don't do that because, we're just transient. I'm just here and I'm going. I'm not going to invest so much. But the Rebbe said that you have to treat every situation as if this is my purpose and place right here, and I'm going to be fully invested in it. And just like the tabernacle, that even if they were there for one day, they built the whole thing and they put everything into it as if they would be there for a month, as if they would be there for 2 months. The Rebbe said, our job in life is to take every situation that we're in and be fully in it. It's called, actually in Kabbalah and in Chassidus, there's an idea called a pnimi, to be fully into something. And the Rebbes were known to be masters at this, that when they were into something, they were 100% into it. And the Rebbe shared, you used to share many stories about the different Rebbes, how there was even one story, one of the Chabad Rebbes, I forgot who it was, there was a very big court case that was coming up, and he had to travel to Petersburg and deal with it. And he walked, the younger Rebbe walked into the office, and he sees, either it was his father or father-in-law, he's sitting there, calm, deep in study, and he's studying something. And he later he asked him, how did you have the, usually imagine, you're taking a flight, later today, and you're all the chaos is going on, you're getting everything ready. Could you see yourself being able to just stop and read something that takes a lot of intention? Usually we're just but the Rebbes had the ability to do that, and the Rebbes would encourage their Chassidim, their students and their followers, to be a pnimi. A pnimi means to be in the moment. We may not be able to do it as well as the Rebbe, but to be fully in the moment and to live in that moment fully, and not to imagine, what I'm going to do next. And I really believe that it is one of the hardest things to deal with, and a lot of the anxiety does come from the fact that right now, just the unknown. We don't know, where this is going to go. We don't know how long it's going to be, and even the fear of how susceptible we all are. And so it's that fear of the unknown and how long this is going to happen. But if we could just think about the story and the message behind it, where the Rebbe was telling him, right now you're in Worcester, put yourself into this place as if you're going to be here forever, right? Just like the temple, it may be one day, but fully put yourself into it. And he actually wrote that it was really inspiring to him, because it just gave him a different, again, sometimes we hear a different perspective, and it really helps us out. This is another story. It's actually not a story which is, there's 4 stories that were, for this class today, but another side story that it just reminded me of, the Farbrengen of the Rebbe. If you look in the back, there's a picture over there. That's actually a Farbrengen with the Rebbe in 770, when thousands of the Chassidim would gather around in the main sanctuary, and the Rebbe would speak about different topics, and then they would sing nigunim, sing songs, and then say l'chaim together. And it was always it was the most uplifting spiritual experience. And one time the Rebbe was Farbrengen, and there was a huge group from Israel that flew in. I believe it was for high holidays or something. And it was at the end of the high holidays. And that night they had a flight back to Israel. And a few hundred, Hasidim were there. And they were going to be flying back they had an El Al flight back to Israel that night. In the middle of the Farbrengen, the Rebbe's Farbrengen, and sharing beautiful concepts and ideas and stories. And at one moment, the Rebbe stopped and he said that I noticed that a lot of the participants, a lot of the guests who are flying back to Israel keep looking at their watch, right? I mean, we all do that, looking at our watch, oh my God, the flight's leaving soon. And the Rebbe gave a whole talk about time and how to be in time and be present. And basically what the Rebbe told them is that you're here right now, instead of, to keep looking at the watch and being worried about what I have to do next, why don't you put yourself fully into this Farbrengen, and this way you could take it back with you when you go back, instead of half the Farbrengen you were busy worrying about, what am I going to do next, and I have to cancel my flight and all of that. And it really, again, this was the Rebbe's approach to fully put yourself into any experience that you're in. If anyone has any questions, if anyone wants to add to this, or if you want to put something in you could always add something to the chat. Feel free to add something there, and then I could address it. But I think that is today there's many ways of doing this. Sometimes it could be through meditation. It could be just going on a long walk. But you realize that we have the ability to do this. There's today the cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the most widely taught, accepted, and growing modalities of therapy, and what CBT. And what it is that it focuses on that it all begins in the mind, right? The only reason we have anxiety and we worry about things is because our mind tells us stories. The story of, oh, it's going to happen to me. Oh, it's never going to end. The world is never going to be the same. Life is never going to get back to normal. I can't handle this anymore. I can't deal with the stress. These are all narratives that we tell ourselves. And CBT is especially, one of the great authors is John Gottman and others. Really focuses on the fact that if we tell ourselves different stories, that we have the ability to change our emotions. And what's fascinating about this is that Hasidus for many years has talked about this idea that Alter Rebbe would always say is that the mind rules the heart, right? The mind rules the heart. And we see this, that when we're awake, our head is above our heart. When we go to sleep, then our head and our heart is on the same level. And that's why you can have crazy dreams, right? You can have dreams that don't make any sense. Why? Because in a dream, your mind and heart are on the same level. And therefore, anything could go. But the problem is when we're awake and we let our heart just, go with its emotions, and we don't realize that the mind has so much power. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe would always say, in Hebrew, it's called Moach Shalat Al Alev. You hear this, there's stories. There's a great story actually of we know this story from modern day culture, but like the stories of the people who could totally, in being in the most stressful situation. For example, like Eli Cohen, the famous spy from Israel, but others, who have that ability that even in the most difficult situations, that they're able to be totally calm. And that's an ability of the mind that the mind has. The Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, he had a chassid who was actually a spy, because the Alter Rebbe wanted that Napoleon should not win the war against Russia, because he was afraid that spiritually it would be detrimental for the Jewish people if Napoleon won the war. So the Alter Rebbe had one of his chassidim who was a spy and went deep into Napoleon's camp. And it was there was one time that he was there, and a general came into the room that he was in, and he was able to speak all the languages, so he would be an interpreter. And he was in the room with all the maps, and he was taking that information, he was bringing it back. Suddenly a general walked in, and he walked straight over to him, and he put his hand on his heart, and he said, "You're a spy." And he just remained totally calm. And later, and at the end, he said, "Okay, I was just testing you." and he let him go, meaning he realized he thought he wasn't really a spy, otherwise his heart would have started racing. So later this chassid said that it was everything that the Alter Rebbe taught me about the mind over the heart is what gave me that ability in that moment to just totally stay calm. Now again, this is not something that we develop overnight, but just knowing that we have this ability, that we have the ability as human beings to be present, to be totally in the moment, is something that is extremely helpful during situations like this. Anyone want to share anything? Anyone? Okay, I'll share another story. I have 2 more stories. Like I said, we have 4 stories, and then we could open it up at the end. Sandra sent, there's a Zen story of the monk that falls off a cliff. As he falls, he comes across a strawberry blossom. The people above him hear him say, "Beautiful," and he continues.
Yeah.
He's saying he's falling off the cliff, and he's like, "Oh wow, that's beautiful."
Yeah, he stays in the moment. He's completely in the moment.
Right, beautiful. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
There's another story. There was a chassid whose father was very sick, and it was around high holidays time. So he wrote a letter to the Rabbi asking for a blessing for his father. And the Rabbi wrote back to him like this, and I'll read the words because the words are very powerful words. First, the Rabbi gave him a piece of honey cake. I don't know if you've heard of this tradition, but has anyone ever had honey cake on Rosh Hashanah? So the tradition of honey cake is like the apples and honey, that we should have a sweet year. There's also a tradition that we ask for honey cake, or at least stick out your hand, and then someone should give you honey cake right before Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur time. And the reason for this, it says that this will be a merit that you should never have to ask for something the rest of the year. Not that asking is bad, but that we shouldn't have to come onto other people. So we ask now for honey cake, and then it's a merit for a sweet year. So the Rebbe would stand for hours and hours, 5, 6 hours, and give out honey cake in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And people would come and to receive the honey cake and a blessing. So he came to the Rabbi and he said, "Rabbi, my father is very, very sick in the hospital, and he really needs a blessing." So the Rabbi said to him like this. He said, "Give this to your father, the honey cake, and may God bless him with a sweet and healthy year." But then the Rebbe continued seriously, and the Rebbe said, "Tell your father that when he finishes his mission for which he was sent to the hospital, God will set him free from there." That's what the Rebbe told him. And he did not expect an answer like that. It wasn't something that Rebbe told people all the time. And so he went back to his father and he gave him the honey cake, and he told his father this message. And from that moment on, he had a whole different approach. He thought, "I'm in the hospital. Why am I here? I have to get out of here." Suddenly, the Rebbe told him, there's a purpose. There's a reason why you're in the hospital. And really, this is with all of us in every situation, but we forget, and here the Rebbe told him, you have a mission. So from that moment on, he started connecting with all the doctors and the nurses in a very different way. Usually when you're in the hospital, you're receiving, you feel like, you're needy or you need to come on to others. Everything is very, quick and so on. But here he realized, the Rebbe told him, I'm on a mission. So I have to connect with every doctor and every nurse. And he started to make conversations and he started to connect with them. And slowly but surely, he built these beautiful friendships and relationships. And some of the doctors and nurses that were Jewish started connecting with him, also on a spiritual level, and talking about their Yiddishkeit and their Judaism. And he would encourage them to do another mitzvah and so on. This is what went on. So what happened was, inspired by this message, he tells his father, you know, what the Rebbe said, and he starts doing this. The day after Yom Kippur, the Rebbe sent his personal secretary to visit this man in the hospital. And his first question was, the Rebbe wants to know, have you completed your mission yet? So what would you respond if, yes, I'm done my mission, get me out of the hospital. You know, there's always the magnet on the refrigerator. I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's sort of like, God, I haven't completed my mission yet. Don't worry, you don't have to take me yet. So, but here he was actually, he realized that the Rebbe really means it, that he had a purpose over there. And years later, he shared that many people that he connected to in that hospital were still very close with him, and it impacted their Judaism because of the connection and the conversations that they had, and they were in a place in their lives that they weren't so involved in their Judaism, but because of that, and sort of the Rebbe empowered him, that you're there with a purpose, that really helped him. So that's just another amazing story, how when you recognize that every opportunity that we have in life is not, there's no accidents, there's no, you know, it's not just, I think there's two ways of looking at a negative experience. One is that this is negative, but something positive will come out of it, right? Or you know, focus on the positive, you know, let's focus on the positive. But from these stories, what we see and what's such a paradigm shift about it is that it's empowering. It's not just saying, focus on something else. Don't, you know, it's actually saying, focus on this. There's a purpose in this right now. Whether it's to just be comfortable with myself, whether it's to connect better with my spouse, whether it's just, you know, learning how to have some downtime and, you know, and not always going and forgetting about what's really important, and maybe working on ourselves. Maybe it's, you know, realizing that our home is really a sanctuary, and how are we going to make our homes more of a sanctuary that we want it to be. There's so many beautiful things, but you know, otherwise, you know, we could all say, oh, I wish I could have figured this out another way. Sometimes, you know, he needed to be in that hospital for a certain reason. They needed to be in the stuck right in the airport that night, but there's really a purpose for it. And if we could all just realize that really this situation that we're all in right now has a reason that we may never understand. Hopefully we could all see the beautiful benefits from it. And then if we focus on that, then that becomes more of our reality. So I'll finish with this one last story. This is Rabbi Darren, and Rabbi Yisrael Darren and his wife, I think, is Vivi. They live in Stamford, Connecticut, and they founded the Chabad there. It's a very big Chabad community there today. And in the beginning, only a few years, they were still young shluchim, emissaries of the Rebbe. Shluchim in Hebrew means emissaries. So Chaya and I, we are shluchim. I am a shaliach in Hebrew. It means an emissary. And Chaya is a shlucha. That's the feminine version of an emissary. We're not just rabbis and rebbitzins, but we're also emissaries of the Rebbe, which comes with a great responsibility and also a privilege. So they are the shluchim to Stamford, Connecticut. And he always shares this powerful story that happened with them early on in their shluchus. One of their children was very, very sick in the hospital, and was there for many, many months. And during that period of time, they would switch off. They always made sure that one of them was in the hospital, even though they had other children that they had to be with at home. So they would switch off, and one of them would always spend time with their daughter in the hospital. So during that period of time, he wrote a letter to the Rebbe, And in the letter, at some point, he mentioned that, by the way, we're not really accomplishing much here in Stamford, Connecticut, in the sense of growing the community and our efforts and all of our programming, because we're really focused on their son, or I believe it was their daughter, who was in the hospital, and it was sort of a little bit apologetic. In the sense that, this is the situation and they can't, it's hard for us to really be doing much. They knew the Rebbe would understand, but they still felt bad that they're the emissaries over there and this is the situation. So this was actually a phone, this was actually a phone conversation that he was having with one of the Rebbe's secretaries. The line went quiet for a moment, and the secretary came back a little while later, and this is what he said, and I'll read it from the inside, from the story. The Rebbe says that certainly the Eibishter means God in Yiddish, it's one of the ways it means the one above, didn't make such a thing happen so that you should suffer or be anguished because of it. Surely you have a shlichus to do there, go find it and do it. And meaning in the hospital, he was calling from the hospital and sharing, I'm here in the hospital. Again, I'm stuck in the hospital. I'm here because, I have to take care of our daughter. But unfortunately, I can't really be accomplishing anything because we're here. We're in the hospital. But the Rebbe said, certainly God would not do this just for, just to punish you. That's not why this is happening. There's a reason why you're there. And go figure out what that reason is. When he heard this, he was, again, in his situation, he was like, wow, I didn't even think about that. And again, he started to connect. In Stamford is a very big Jewish community, and there were many Jewish doctors and nurses, and as the shliach, as the rabbi, again, he was in the hospital. He wasn't thinking of himself as the rabbi in the hospital who's there to inspire the other Jews there. He was there because his daughter needed to be healed, and they're just there, and again focused on one aspect. And the Rebbe helped him see that, no, here you have an amazing opportunity to connect with the Jewish people in the hospital. And till today, there are many doctors from who were involved in their daughter's healing that are very involved in the local Chabad there. And it's only because instead of focusing on that he was stuck in the hospital, he was able to focus on the fact that he had a purpose over there. He had a reason over there. God put him in the hospital for a reason. So that's the focus of today's class. And just 4 stories to think about. The first story was a story of the group of 20 women who were stuck in the airport. And the Rebbe said, well, I never heard of such a word. I don't know what it means stuck. A Jew is never stuck. The second story was the story of one second, I forgot his name. It's Avram Glick, who was from Melbourne, Australia. He was feeling, stress and anxiety that he's totally not present. He's busy focusing on being in Melbourne. And the Rebbe reminded him that the tabernacle was built fully and completely as if they were going to be in that place for months or years, even though they were only going to be there one day, and reminding him to be fully present and that we have the ability to be fully present. We shared the story of the chassid whose father was very sick in the hospital, and the Rebbe said that as soon as he finishes his mission in the hospital, that's when Hashem will release him from the hospital. And he realized that he had a purpose to do over there. And the last story of Rabbi Darren and Vivi, his wife, Rebbe and Vivi Darren, who were in the hospital and felt that they weren't accomplishing their purpose in Stamford of being the Rebbe's emissaries. And the Rebbe said, no, that's your purpose there in the hospital right now. God wouldn't just put you in the hospital and for no reason, just for the sake of it, but there's a purpose over there. And all of these stories hopefully could help us just to think about it a little bit. And again, change doesn't come overnight, but perspectives, sometimes that we have an aha moment, and especially because it all starts in the mind. Hopefully these stories, and if you order the book, it's called Positivity Bias, or again, I would really encourage the book Rabbi. It's just an amazing read. It's a large book, don't be intimidated by it, because anyone who's ever read it, it couldn't put it down. So it's based off of stories and the Rebbe's life, and how the Rebbe saw the positive. So does anyone want to share something, just add something, just, maybe share something that was talked about today, resonated with them, or a takeaway? What is a takeaway that you'll take with this message of finding the purpose, and not just focusing on the positive, but actually finding the purpose in the deeper meaning of in the situation that we're in right now. Yes, Judy.
Okay. Sandra here, Flagstaff, Arizona.
Okay, 1 second, Sandra. Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Go.
Okay, this was amazing. Thank you so much for this nice blast of fresh, beautiful air. It's like jasmine and a tropical breeze in the middle of chaos and stench. So,
thanks for being here. Yeah.
yeah, so it's about our focus, and thank you for reminding us about that. And now, because we're doing a JLI at the house, my cats all get to experience you too.
Nice.
So, double bustling. So thank you so much.
Nice, beautiful. Judy, you want to say something?
That I'm basically a person who's normally very, very active. And so this whole period I am trying very hard to be in the present and just look at new ways of being present instead of running around, trying to do more art, trying to enjoy time with Harold, trying to just enjoy the slowness of the day, and try not to give in to the anxiety, like you said, of when is this going to be over, and are we going to be okay? But I appreciate those stories. They were very helpful.
Thank you. And by the way, I want you to know that I totally relate, because I'm kind of like that, where I just keep going, and this time it's been challenging for me as well. Just it's so different. There's usually I'm on what's the next project? What are we what are we doing? And then suddenly it's just focusing on being here in the now, and that does bring anxiety. And something that someone shared with me that I thought was very helpful is this idea of that anxiety is actually energy. It's really energy. That's all it is. Because if again, the stories, that we tell ourselves, let's say right now I feel that I have anxiety, I could say, oh, I have anxiety, and it's just, I don't know how to deal with that anxiety. But really what anxiety is just energy. We have a ton of energy in us, and usually we use that energy for all kinds of creative things that we're doing, and we're going places and on to the next thing. And in a time like this, the energy is still there, but the outlets are more challenging to find. But I think when we just knowing and hearing it as, sort of even the word, changing the word, that I have a lot of energy, is another, it's another just a little shift that taking that energy, because in Kabbalah it explains that certain things are neutral and certain things are negative. For example, you can never use a pig in Judaism. Someone could say, oh, could you bring a pig as a sacrifice to God? Let's say in the days of sacrifices, because then it's elevating the pig. And the answer is no, because there's certain things that can't be elevated in that way. Or can I eat a pig and then I'll get the energy from it to serve God, right? And Kabbalah explains that you can't do that because the energy is just negative. Not to get into the whole thing, but that idea. But then there's other things that are neutral. For example, money is neutral. Money is not bad. Money is not good. Money is like energy. You could use it for really good things. You could use it for negative things. And the same thing with sex or intimacy. It could be used it's very powerful. It could be used for good. It could be used in a negative way. Love. I mean, there's a lot of things that in many ways are neutral. But if you use it too much in the wrong way, it could actually be harmful. So the same thing is with anxiety, and I think many of us are feeling this right now. And remembering that it's energy that's there, and if and you know how we think about it really makes a big difference on how we're feeling, and recognizing that it's okay, it's normal to feel anxiety. I would say the majority of people are having heightened anxiety right now more than they've had in a long time, or maybe never had it like this in their lives, and it's okay. It's and it's just reminds us that we have a lot of good energy in us. We have energy, and we have to find ways of using it. And it's so yeah. The anyone else wanted to share? Gary.
So
What's that?
I said you have said it well. But I mean, it's not knowing where this ends. It's fear too.
Yeah. You go on walks every day with Stella?
Well, not really. I can't walk. I have a hip problem, but
Oh wow. Oh wow, that makes it even harder.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
Nice.
but Stella is here wherever I am. I don't know whether you can see her.
Oh, there. Yep. Nice.
Her purpose in life.
Okay. Well, if anyone wants to jump on and share, let me know. If not, let me see if there's another. Oh, Danny. Hi, Danny.
I just want to say thank you. It was really nice listening in. I'm glad you're doing this. So I think it's a good way to make this time useful.
Thank you. Thanks, Danny. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining this week. Feel free if you miss one for whatever reason, there's no problem. This is not like, a course you have to be here for every single one. We'll be posting the information every week for this class. It's going to be 4 more weeks at this time. And if you have any friends or anyone else that would like to join, feel free to let them know about it. There's no restrictions. It's open to everyone. Thank you again for being here. If anyone wants to reach out, it's always great to connect. So, but more importantly, I do look forward to the time in the near future when we could all celebrate together in person, and it's going to be soon, God willing. So,
Great. Thank you. I hope so. Hope it's sooner than later.
yes. Yeah, God willing.
Bye.
Sadie, you want to share something?
No, I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank
We'll see
you.
you next week.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Okay.